great race in the Precision Racing League. Green flag flies, we're underway. Side-by-side, door-to-door contact. Incredible action here in the PRL. And they come together. After all the fighting, it ends in tears.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker, the future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
Is a return to North Wilkesboro Speedway for the Precision Racing League Cup Series. It's round 8 of 9 in Season 2, 2024, and I'm excited to bring the action to you live alongside Ewan O'Leary. I'm Dylan Coyle on RaceSpotTV. This short track, it's just around 5/8 miles in length, and while right now they're about to go live in the NASCAR Cup Series with some all-star race action at 200 laps, we're going to go a little bit further in this race. Let's take a look at the series schedule. We're on race number 8, Ewan, and as you see, we started with the road course at Circuit of the Americas and have had a varying amount of intrigue in the schedule. I'd say North Wilkesboro is one of the more intriguing of them all. They don't race for points in normal Cup Series competition, but in the PRL, it's exactly what they're doing.
Exactly, and we've got the most laps around here than any other circuit on our schedule for this part of the season, and it's given us this championship situation, a championship which could be sealed this evening.
Yes, absolutely. Trent Dinkel, a commanding 54-point advantage. The maximum amount you can get from any one race is 51 points. That's a lot of things have got to go your way for that to come true. Of course, pole position, a win, a fastest lap, all those things. And you see private label team hype on the backs of Trent Dinkel and Abner Acosta, who's second in the standings, as well as the private label team hype teammate of those two, James O'Brien, who has missed a few races, but still put in some solid performances, one win on the season. They have a commanding lead. There's no drop weeks in the team standings, so they are 107 points above Pioneer Racing. That will probably not change whatsoever at the end of next week's finale at Charlotte Motor Speedway. A little discussion about the standings in just a few moments, but for now, it's time to give thanks to all the partners that make it work in the Precision Racing League on RaceSpotTV, and that starts with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Motorsports, actually. Get ready to learn to be fast. Fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Advanced Sim Racing. How about that for a little mix-up there? Owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceboxSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Muradness. Muradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. Finally, Mr. Hedge, iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. It's a great addition to any sim room. Another shout out to Advanced Motorsports. Well, we're all getting ready to learn to be fast with these drivers here in qualifying. As a note, Tim Perry will serve a DNQ tonight. That's from a penalty accrued in the previous round at Darlington. There was a bit of a mess between he and Maverick Davis. He was responsible for a wreck there, and now we watch as Maverick Davis gets to his qualifying laps. Was quickest in practice, Ewan, and he's shown a lot of speed this season, but as always, I feel like with some drivers who are more inexperienced when it comes to some deep racecraft in more professional, bigger series, I feel like Maverick's got that one-lap speed, just not always the overall consistency required to be a race winner.
Yeah, it's been a difficult season. There's been a 0-point score, which is not reflected in any of the other top 6, by the way, in the season standings. So that says a lot, I think. But also a round after that where he finished down outside the top 10, quite a long way outside the top 10, actually. So you can have one bad round. That's, not the best thing in the world, but it's okay, because if you drop weak, you can't really have 2. And so no problems with the speed of Maverick Davis for sure, but maybe just the consistency and grinding out race results has been difficult. Doesn't look like he's been able to replicate that practice form into qualifying, unfortunately. He was a couple of tenths away, or just over a tenth away from pole, which looks like it's going to Abner Acosta.
Yeah, for right now, Abner Acosta currently has the provisional pole by 0.02 of a second over Trent Dinkel and Mark Kalin, really trying to throw it in here on this old North Wilkesboro surface. So this scan is nowhere near updated. It was actually the scan put in there when iRacing initially scanned North Wilkesboro. You can see it's all the old surface, the old ab boards, the old wall. There's no safer barrier. Everything is from the vintage 1990s here in North Wilkesboro. The last time that they did drive here before coming back last year in real-world competition, NASCAR Cup Series competition. Mark Kalin's just trying to get some more practice here. These lap times are definitely slower than what they're doing on this new surface in the real world. So it is interesting, you know. Fresh pave is definitely going to come in, I would assume, in upcoming updates, at least in iRacing. But for now, we still have this this older scan with the older surface. Abner Acosta on the pole. No shocker there. It's he and Trent Dinkel up on the front row. 2,000 separating the two teammates there. Maverick Davis, Park Hilliard, and Pat Harvey, your top 5, while Luke Christian will be in the top 3 rows. Chris Hudson, James O'Brien, Eric Haag, and Chad Kibbe, your top 10 drivers, all separated by under 3/10. Mark Kalin in 11th, while Craig Bray will be in 12th. Waldo Walden, Marshall Harris, 13th and 14th, and Tim Perry will start at the back of the pack in 15th. Only 15 drivers are going to take part in a race here tonight at North Wilkesboro. This is the fewest amount of drivers I've seen in a PRL Cup Series race in some time, so I would assume we're going to get a lot more green flag running here than we have usually seen, Ewan.
Well, yeah, that would be the logical assumption to make, but whether we're going to actually see that, I'm not entirely sure. There's the look at the track condition, 95 Fahrenheit on the circuit. Not outrageously warm, especially for the middle of May, which we're in now. So drivers will be pretty pleased about that. Whether we're going to see a more green race, I'm not entirely sure, really. It's one of those short tracks where we could well see quite a few cautions, breeding cautions later on. But that may well come in the second half of the race, to be fair. We might well knock off the first 100 laps in a good 20 minutes or so, you know, very quickly with a green flag run. I'm not entirely sure, but this is different to what we see in the real world, and I think that's noticeable, really. You can't use the apron in quite the same way as you can in the real world these days, because there's grass there in this build, and that's not as grippy, really, as what they've got in the real world these days. So it is very different, but it's a bit retro, and I'm pleased to see a bit of a retro circuit on the iRacing schedule for the NASCAR Cup Series, whether that's in officials or what we also see in the Precision Racing League. I think it's nice to step away from the real schedule, even if it is just very not quite properly stepping away, is it really? It's still the same circuit, but it's just a slightly different build, and I'm a fan of it, to say personally.
Yeah, I really agree with you there. It is nice to have that bit of a retro vibe, a retro flair that we'll see here. And it's a really good note what you just said about the grass being a little bit more prominent in this older version of the racetrack. The iRacing pace truck lights are on because we'll do 2 pace laps here for a field that is 7, or I should say 8 rows deep. And 15 drivers in this field. You know, Abner going on pole, it's big because you have that inside line. There might not be as much grip on the outside line that we have been seeing actually in the real world newly paved track. It's going to be very bottom heavy, bottom dependent. You might see a little bit of beating and banging short track racing to move drivers, move cars out of the way. Ewan, in one word, what do you expect?
What am I expecting in one word? Well, I'm already aware I've used more than one word there in the answer, but
That's true.
I'm going to not say one word. I'm going to say we're going to see short track racing, and of course, if you've seen it before, you'll know exactly what I mean. Lots of beating and banging, lots of exciting action, but hopefully a good race.
Hopefully a good race indeed. iRacing Pace Truck is off. 235 laps on the schedule, and what a jump for Trent Dinkle. He just completely blew by Abner Acosta, and the caution is back out. Was there a wreck in the background?
Tim Perry is at the back, but he seems to be even going okay. So maybe Eric Haag as well, who's a second or so off the back of the field. Did they go around? But that's probably the earliest caution I've ever seen.
That is incredibly odd. Mark Kalin, here's a replay. Was he late getting to the back of the line here? And did he lose it on his own trying to catch up?
This is qualifying.
This is, yeah, okay. So we're trying to figure out exactly what the reason for the caution is. We do have race control who can give us a little bit of insight there. Fastest lap, 25 and a half. How about that? Under caution. It's around 7 seconds off, 8 seconds off where they're going to be running in this race. Importantly there, as everyone seems to be okay, Trent Dinkle had an incredibly massive jump and took the lead away from Abner Acosta. Abner didn't get going at the green, but at the same time, it was Abner's green to take, right?
Yeah, that's normally a penalty, is it not? When you're coming to the green flag for the first time. I know for a restart it doesn't matter particularly, but off of the start in real life anyway, you normally get a penalty for that.
Now on restarts, it is supposed to also be the leader getting to the line first. If you are in second and get to the line on a restart before the leader, that is a penalty. On the start of the race, I would assume, or I'll have to go to some clarification there, because I thought it was the same ruling, the same kind of penalty, and I'm not exactly sure what the ruling could be or why even that caution came out. So we're already starting with a bit of confusion here, and another potential problem. I'm not sure if you're seeing this, Ewan, but currently seeing 299 laps on our live timing, and that was not what was scheduled.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm seeing that too. I don't know whether that's a mistake or not, because as you say, there was supposed to be 235 today. That is just under 150 miles, by the way, not far off 250 kilometers around this circuit.
So the iRacing Pace Truck lights are off, and we're still trying to wait for clarification, but it looks like Trent is going to restart from the lead of this race, which again is we're all trying to figure it out and understand, and once we figure out what was the reason for the caution, if there's a penalty for Trent jumping, and the amount of laps in this race, we'll try and get back that information to you. But the iRacing Pace Truck is off, and they're lining up one by one. What an odd start to this race. The green is back out. Maverick Davis on the inside of Abner Acosta. Abner's going to most likely clear him, and he does, but Trent goes away with the lead, 3 positions in front.
A very odd restart, as everybody, as you say, doesn't want to be on the outside particularly, and so they all line up single file. Hearing that it was mostly single file because everyone was scored on that down.
Oh, there's a car spinning in the middle of the backstretch. Davis!
He's got away with it as well. He's got away with it without bringing out a second caution of the day, but does drop from 3rd to 9th.
Now we're watching it here. Remember, it's a very slippery surface here. This older North Wilkesboro Scan tried to get back onto the throttle. What a save. Didn't even go into the grass there. Just got it back underway. And remember what I was saying during qualifying. Maverick's got that speed. It's just that consistency you need to see over the course of a long race. We did not see it there.
Yeah, it's a decent save, but you can see that he's already lower down than where he should be, ideally, in terms of what his speed is like, but it's going to be so difficult for him to work his way through. Up on the high side here through 3 and 4, it's difficult to work your way all around the way there. Same at turns 1 and 2. He's going to find him stuck on the outside if he's not too careful, and he's so far struggling to make this move.
Some more answers why everyone was single file is because the caution came out before any drivers, except 2 or 3, were across the start-finish line to start the race, meaning everyone was kind of scored a lap down on the timing. They got black flags for passing the pace car, and race control had to manually undo those black flags to get their lap back, and technically they were waiver rounds. So that's why it was single file. What an odd start to this race.
Yeah, really odd start. We're hearing as well that Eric Haag was the one who took or brought the caution out, although the green flag was barely out, to be honest, at the time when we saw the first caution of the race. There, oh, gone! Maverick Davis spins around, and this time it will bring out a caution.
Oh, goodness. Chad Kibbe and Maverick Davis. We got a quick replay there, and you saw the live pictures. Oh, man, that's a big collision, and Maverick again for the second straight race having a collision with another driver here. We'll have to see if there's any fault to be placed. Get another look at that one, but, oh, that's unfortunate. That was some pretty heavy contact into the outside wall.
Yeah, it's always a problem with oval racing, is giving enough room to the car on the outside, otherwise you will be spun around into the wall yourself and you will be bringing out a caution, so you've got to always remember that, and unfortunately it doesn't look like it has been remembered, particularly on that occasion. Still wondering whether it's probably too early to see any pit stops for the first time, but we are, by the way, 15 laps into this race. I'm now seeing the amount of laps coming down for some reason. It now says 294 for me.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too. So lots of things going on in the background, but I will say no matter how many laps are showing, once we do hit 235 laps, I've gotten word from race control that a full course caution, a yellow flag, will be thrown at lap 200, the conclusion of lap 235, and that will end the race with the positions over the line being the positions that everybody finishes in, subject to video review post-race. So it will be 235 laps, even though the session might be showing more, or 90 minutes, whichever comes first. And after 2 cautions to start this race, I mean, we might be on path for 90 minutes to come first. We don't know yet.
Yeah. We're not that far away already. If you want to sort of average this race out, I calculated at the start of the day that it would take about 80 minutes if we were green flag the whole way. This race would take about 80 minutes. Now, we've got 90 minutes on the clock at the start. We've already had 2 cautions in the first 10 minutes. So I reckon another caution, maybe 2, and we could already be seeing the time limits being the important part. It just depends whether you think really we're going to get the that sort of nice green flag run at the start that we were almost promised.
Well, no one I'd rather try to understand this confusion with than you.
I'm not sure I'm the best candidate for this, but...
I mean, I did ask for one word before you went into a diatribe about multiple words for the start of this race, but it's okay. I'll forgive you for that one. Green flag back out into the air, and Trent Dinkle gets everybody back going. And look at that, Abner Acosta quickly blocked off Park Hilliard's pathway into turn 1. Almost 3 wide, car up into the wall. That was Maverick Davis again.
Yeah, he's aggressive so far in this race, and there was nearly a very similar situation to what brought that previous caution out in the background, by the way. Off of 2 that time round. Thankfully we got away with it, and all 15 cars get off to a good start, but Maverick Davis is flying up the positions, being very aggressive early on in this race.
Maverick is always aggressive, as you see side by side between 2 teammates right there, Pat Harvey, Lou Christian. That team finished 3 drivers in a row last time out, and that's no shocker at Darlington. They are very evenly matched, almost as evenly matched as you see from the private label team hype drivers of Dinkle and Abner Acosta. So here's how we're going to do it. It's all going to be time-based as at least what you're going to be seeing on your screen watching the race on RaceSpotTV on YouTube. We'll be able to tell you the lap that we're on. Trent Dinkel coming around to complete lap 23, now on lap 24, I believe is going to be a common phrase.
I think 20. Yeah, I think we're on 23 now, about to complete 23.
Well, I didn't know if that was completed lap 23 and on 24, or you know what I'm saying? Sometimes that can be confusing.
It's not entirely clear, to be honest with you. But there we go. That's what I think it is, anyway.
We'll worry about that in like 200 laps time when we need to.
Yeah, it's a long way away, to be honest, so we don't need to worry about that. What a Walden drops out a couple of places and loses a couple of seconds as well, just outside the top 10. But still pointing the right way. We're still green indeed.
Riding on board with Pat Harvey, and you can see here how banked North Wilkesboro really is. And I feel like a lot of tracks on the NASCAR circuit, you know, we talk about low banking. North Wilkesboro has lower banking than a lot of tracks. But look how banked it still is. I mean, it is very necessary to have at least some banking here to get these cars fast around the track, going up front stretch and on the back stretch. And this is one of those weirder tracks where you actually go uphill on the back stretch and downhill on the front stretch at North Wilkesboro. It's very weird how that's set up.
Yeah, it's 13 degrees, by the way, in the corners, just in not the hard statistics for that. But yeah, it's certainly not the flattest track on the circuit, certainly not the most banked for sure, but it is a challenge, a unique challenge, as you say, that downhill nature in towards the first turn, the uphill drag into the third. You don't see that very often in oval racing. You don't see rises and falls very often, or an incline indeed, in this type of racing. So that makes it unique. It is a unique racetrack. It's great to come here and have a bit of retro action, I suppose, taking these modern machines onto an older racetrack.
Retro action. Love that here at North Wilkesboro. You see some of the old NASCAR Cup Series logos, albeit without a particular brand of highly addictive chemical compound things.
We don't say what they actually are? I'm sure people know anyway.
I don't know. I don't know either.
But iRacing decided to take that, so fair enough.
Yeah, you know. But nonetheless, it's cool. Classic Coca-Cola is lining as well some of the painted walls. And by the way, we're also hearing that it's actually when the green was triggered, Abner and Trent were side by side. So it's not necessarily, at least what we're being told from race control, it's not necessarily who gets to the line first once the green is thrown, at least on the start of the race. It is when the green's flown, the race is underway and get going. So that's why the jump was legal. It was just Trent got off to a fantastic start, and Abner was caught sleeping a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think both of those things can be true, to be honest. I think that the more prevalent thing in those two, though, is Trent Dinkel getting off to a wonderful start. He must have just reacted absolutely perfectly, had his car positioned perfectly as well, because don't forget they're sort of in the middle of four when the green flag gets waved, and that doesn't make it's not as easy as just a straight flat out run to the start finish line that you would get 9 times out of 10. You're sort of halfway around the corner, and so that makes it pretty difficult for any of the drivers to get going, but especially if you're on the front row on the outside. But maybe there was a bit of coordination there between the teammates, because Acosta will have known surely that if Trent Dinkel was on the outside of him there, he could have been shuffled back a long way in the field.
100%. And as we see Pat Harvey and James O'Brien here doing battle for 5th place, Park Hilliard now losing a position to Lou Christian. Christian and Harvey, the teammates, are doing pretty well here. Both of those drivers in the top 5, and still trying to climb up a little bit more. It's just a big gap between Christian to Abner Acosta and Trent Dinkel, the top 2 drivers, and top 2 in the championship in the order that they're running in this race. Marshall Harris, by the way, down pit road. We assume there is an undiagnosed at the time problem down 2 laps, so most likely won't be picking up many positions by the time this race ends.
No, it's been a difficult start for Marshall Davis for whatever reason. There's what happened to Waldo Walden earlier on, and we're lucky to get away without a caution actually as a result of that incident there. But has that sent him a lap down as well?
It may have, and this is what happened to Marshall Harris a little bit earlier. Also had a similar adventure through the grass with no spin, just off track, and then a bit of a blink, and we assume down pit road he went. So 15 and a half minutes gone in this race, and Trent Dinkle, I believe, is on lap 41 of the running here.
Yeah, so
we agree there?
Well, it's going to change in a moment, but yes, I agree for the moment. It's about to be 42 because it's such a short lap round here. So about a sixth of the way to the lap counts already, but we're almost exactly a sixth of the way through the minutes as well. 15 minutes would be 1/6 of 90, and we're just over a sixth in terms of laps. So at the moment, we are going to be cut short by laps, but there's still scope for cautions to disrupt this race a little bit later on.
Cautions certainly can do that, and usually when one caution comes, another follows. Cautions breed cautions, as they say.
It did earlier on as well, actually.
It certainly did, and with 15 drivers in this race, I'm surprised we've had 2 cautions altogether, especially 2 cautions in the first 10 minutes of running here at North Wilkesboro. It's the penultimate round of PRL Cup Series competitions, Season 2 of 2024. There's also an extra element here with playoffs being a thing. Playoffs certainly are an interesting quirk of Season 4 competition, because not only can you win the individual season, but you can also win the year-long playoff battle. Usually you've got Trent Dinkle. Oh, Park Hilliard off in the grass, has stopped in the grass. Gets it going again, but I wonder if he hit the barrier pretty hard here.
Let's see, off of 2, it's that switch around from going downhill and plunging back uphill again. It's just on the power, loose off the corner, lock up of the brakes, and avoiding the wall. I think very much had that steering wheel locked to the right to make sure that the car didn't go over into the barrier. But Hilliard was one of those drivers who joined really late from practice. Actually, I think was the latest joiner throughout the practice session today. And maybe that lack of accustomedness to this circuit, if that's a word, is showing there a little bit as things went slightly wrong off of turn 2.
Yeah, things definitely went slightly wrong for him there. And that's unfortunate, because Park was running in the top 5 and had a brief stint in the top 3 spots. But 18 minutes into this race, and on lap 49 of the running here is a battle between Trent Dinkle and Abner Acosta. 3/10 separate them for the lead of this race. We go back to Maverick Davis, who, against all odds, as he slides his way through turn 2 there, has made it back into 6th place. I guess it helps when it is a smaller field. You don't have too much damage to contend with.
Well, he definitely didn't have any damage to contend with because he was in the pit lane during that second caution, so presumably he would have taken on some tyres. There's Hilliard again having the spin to the inside. There's going to be some new tyres needed there. But I don't think ideally you want to be seeing a pit stop under green flag really today. You're going to want to wait for the cautions, as Maverick Davis did, and is putting that to good use at the moment.
Yeah, if you see any bit of green flag pit stops here, you're almost certainly going to see yourself go 2 laps down, if not more. Unless you're the leader, maybe you would go 1 lap down, or the very tail end of 1 lap down. But Chris Hudson is keeping Maverick Davis pretty honest here, not letting him get away too quickly. James O'Brien is the next one up for Maverick, but 43 car doing a good job here. Chris Hudson is teammates with Pat Harvey and Pat Harvey and Luke Christian. And look at this, Abner Acosta putting a nose down the inside here on the exit of turn 4, trying to take the lead away. He's still in that Terry Labonte throwback machine. It's in Kyle Larson Darlington throwback colors and all of that. HendrickCars.com on the hood. He's right there.
Yeah, he is. He's been applying that pressure for a while now, and you can just see him beginning to look, but I think realising that we're only 20 minutes into what could be a very long race today. Lap 55 we've just started now. It's a very long way to go round here, so not really worth doing anything major for the moment for Abner Acosta. I think if he could have got through early and quickly, then he might have done so, but now that it's not come off for him immediately, he might well just sit there and ride around in second place. We'll see.
Might as well, right? But we'll see how patient he is. Remember, he needs to get all the points he can in this race, even though it's all but over, this championship battle, quite honestly. As you see, a little bit of side-by-side racing between Tim Perry and Craig Bray. Perry does not clear him yet, and still just barely a nose from Bray as they enter turn 1. Perry should be able to clear here easily, and does. The 83 did not get a qualifying lap in. He was given a DNQ for this race. Still was able to start it. It is up to 9th right now. Only 14 drivers remain in it. 13 on the lead lap after Marshall Harris retired from this race. Let's ride on board from the rear bumper of Trent Dinkel.
Looking at Abner Acosta just in behind, looking for his way through. Not too far behind them both, by the way, is Luke Christian. 1.7, 1.8 seconds further behind. Is a good run so far from the 21 to be in 3rd place, but these two are the class of the field, aren't they? It's been very much the story of the season. Trent Dinkel is already going for his 9th win in this season in just 17 races.
Yeah, he's done a really good job of staying kind of within the realm of competition here, Luke Christian has. Just a second and a half off now, and this run definitely is going an elongated amount of time. No, as Abner Acosta wiggles getting back onto the throttle out of 2. No restriction on the capacities of these fuel tanks here for these NASCAR Cup Series race cars. You still see Abner wiggling big time. Those tires have definitely lit up, and they have not gotten that much cooler after almost going around at the exit of 2 just 1 lap ago. But ready's another run with some traffic in front. We go back to Maverick Davis, who is starting a bit of a train here.
Yeah, he is. So maybe the legacy of going too hard early, too hard too early in a run is coming back to bite Maverick Davis at the moment, because while it was really impressive at the start of the run to see those 16-lap fresher tyres being put to good use and everybody else being put to the sword, that now he's the one who could be overtaken with relative frequency in this next part of the run.
Luke Christian gained another 3/10 over the last few laps, and he's closing in big time, now within a second. And as they start to catch up to some lapped competitors, this is going to add a little bit more. Look at this. Dinkel now almost letting Abner go. I think that's exactly what he did, struggling with that race car a little bit. You see the concentration on his face. Abner Acosta, as he set, yes he will, to lead his first lap of the race. The pole sitter finally leads a lap.
Yeah, what a bizarre start that is. But yeah, Trent Dinkel wanted to let Abner Acosta through there. They both saw the writing on the wall. They both can maybe help one another now that they're in this reverse position. And look at the gap to Luke Christian as well. That is a lot smaller than it was. It's come down by about a second since we last commented on it, and that was only about 10 laps ago, maybe less. So just note that, in that maybe Abner Acosta said to Trent Dinkel, look, we're losing time here. Both of us are falling over one another, really, just in front of Luke Christian. If he catches us both up, then, you know, all of a sudden this becomes a very different race. If we sort this out between ourselves before he gets here, then they can keep more control over the field.
That's, at the end of the day, what teamwork is, right? It's very important for those two teammates to work together to potentially win this race. Even though they're competing in the championship, it's not much of a battle anymore. The biggest battle right here is going to be cleanly getting around Mark Kalin who is the last car on the lead lap. Look at all the slipping and sliding that Trent is doing as Kalen runs up the hill. Allows Abner to get by, but Trent's going to be held up just a little bit on the front stretch here. I was talking about fuel capacity. These drivers can probably run, I'm going to say, 120 lap. No, that's they're going to have to pit for tires before they have to worry about fuel. And look at that car down pit road. Kalen almost into the wall.
Or do you think that we're going to see these guys to split this race in half in a sense, because we've got a nice green flag run going at the moment? Say we get to, as Walden pits, by the way, it looked like he had a bit of damage. Maybe that's the reason. If we get to about 115-ish, 120, without another caution here, that could be only 15 or so minutes away with the pace we're going at the moment. Maybe we could see some of these guys split this in half, or do you think we'll see them waiting for a caution?
No, I think you're absolutely right there. I think, as Maverick Davis is slow on the front stretch, what happened here? Davis losing control again, and didn't turn around completely, hence no caution from the iRacing system. But my goodness, Maverick again having one of those races where as he comes down pit road, you see the talent that he's got and the speed he's got. It's just the consistency is not yet there in his racecraft.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the tyre conservation as well was something, a real weakness in that run, actually, because we saw him racing through the field earlier on, but he fell back pretty quickly towards the end as we look at the battle for second place.
Yeah, Luke Christian has really caught up to Trent Dinkle. I think exactly what you were just saying about splitting this race in half will probably happen. If it's 118 or so laps and 117 laps, or maybe two stopper, and Trent Dinkle is coming down pit road. Wow. He's slowed down. He's going to split it into a two-stop race, into stints, thirds of a race. And I mean, I want to say I'm shocked with Trent, because he's usually the master of saving tires, and he hasn't been dominant in this race.
Yeah, he has been struggling, and I'm not entirely sure what the answer is for him, to be honest with you, at the moment. I don't think this tyre change is a bad idea at all, although he's got to absolutely pray there is no caution from here until the near future. There he is, right in the middle of this battle for fifth place between Chris Hudson and Chad Kibbe at the moment, but he'll race away from that pretty quickly. So he's not even really splitting this race into thirds. He's slightly going to have a longer stint somewhere, because 75 times 3 is only 225, which is still 10 short, but that's probably fine around here. 10 laps is only about 3 or 4 minutes.
1.1 seconds is the fall off as there's another spin from Maverick Davis, and a caution is out.
Disaster.
Maverick again losing control in the same spot he did just a few laps prior. We get a replay here, and I'm going to assume he just lost it on his own again, but it started on the exit of 4. I'm surprised that was a caution, but he was more sideways there and on the track than before. This changes the strategy and kills Trent Dinkle, who is a lap down, will more than likely get the wave around, but
maybe.
I think everyone's going to pit here that's on the lead lap. Be shocked if if anyone does not elect to go down.
Yeah, I think you're right. There is a car in front of him, but I think they're also laps down as well. So I think there's going to be multiple drivers getting laps back here as we have a look at pit lane. You'd imagine 4 tyres taken by everybody here, and Abner Acosta should be out first as long as he's got everything right. Out he goes, and Abner Acosta does win the race off pit lane.
Track conditions you saw on your screen, 91 degree Fahrenheit track temperature. That is pretty cool, all things considered. There's not too much degradation other than the usual degradation you'd usually see at a short track, especially one that's as weathered as North Wilkesboro is. So we see some of the lap cars coming down into the pits. What this means is that Trent Dinkle, it's not a big field, but the wave around drivers get sent to the back of the field, and the lucky dog, the free pass, will line up in front of the wave around drivers. And in this case, Dinkle was not the free pass.
No.
He'll be the one wave around, it looks like, right here. So he'll have to go to the back of the field and try and climb all the way up, which I think he'll be able to do with relative ease, but it's not that I'm worried about. It's that Abner's going to get a chance, and potentially Luke Christian, to just start to run away from potentially Trent here.
Hey, what the real balance is going to be over the course of the next 80 laps or so is, for Trent Dinkle anyway, working away through the field, as you just say, which is going to be an important part of the next phase in the race for him. But more pressingly in my mind is, how is he going to save his tyres a bit better? Because he can't go through his tyres in the way that he just did. He can't win this race if he's going to chew through the tyres in 75 laps like that. Because that's not even a third of the race, and there were 2 cautions in that period as well, where you can probably take 5 laps or so off the actual degradation. So he's got to balance all of that in his mind, and that's a real challenge, I reckon, over the course of the next 80 laps or so, before we should see him in for a second time.
Yeah, Maverick is back down pit road, and he's been there for a long time, actually, and oh boy, just not the race he wanted, especially after another good qualifying effort. Pace truck is off track. We're back to racing on lap 85 of 235 here. 3 cautions in this race, and Abner Acosta gets away with not the biggest jump. Luke Christian's going to try and hang it with him. They're spinning in the background again. Caution waves. Dinkle was just behind it. Mark Kalin and Craig Bray involved. What happened here, Ewan?
Looks like it's contact between the 2 of them, as those at the back end of the lead lap and those trying to get laps back again step over each other. Kalen's on the lead lap. He's on the inside. He just comes up into Craig Bray, and I think he tries to let him get, or at least tries to let him spin out the way again before he can get back going. But it's just the aggression on the restart. Kalen, I don't think, kept quite as far enough to the left, sort of bobbled and drifted upwards a little bit and into the side of the 709.
Mark Kalin claims responsibility over the in-sim communications, and that's what I worry about for Trent Dinkle, right? It's not the speed, but it's being back there and the argy-bargy nature of a race and a track like this that has admittedly, been a little bit less clean than I think any of us would have thought, with 15 drivers originally entering this race. Now it looks like only 14 or 13, I should say, are even competing in the race with 57 minutes to go. That's interesting to me. You know, only 10 drivers on the lead lap right now. And Trent Dinkle, what this caution does allow him to kind of get through is he doesn't have to restart the tail end of the field. He can go back to the end of the drivers on the lead lap. So he'll restart in row 5 in 10th.
Yep, so that will be a little bit more helpful, but he didn't really have the predicament of overtaking everybody last time, I suppose, did he? He didn't have to go through that, so that won't have added too much pain to his day, I wouldn't have thought. I thought I saw, by the way, a lap or so ago, someone going past the entire field getting the wave around. Sorry, not the wave around, the Lucky Dog. And I assumed that would be Craig Bray, but he still won that down somehow.
Well, it's because Bray was involved in the incident. So free passes.
But I saw him go around. I thought I did.
You saw Bray get the free pass?
I saw him passing cars on the outside, for sure.
Interesting.
Or it might have been somebody else, but somebody was.
Well, nonetheless, Bray appears to still be 1 lap down, the only driver a lap down. So if another caution comes out pretty quickly, he'll get his lap back and make it 11 drivers on the lead lap of this race. Eric Haag is solidifying himself as the 14th place driver. He is out of the session right now. Maverick Davis 9 laps down. Only a matter of time before he might decide to hang it up for the rest of this race. But the way attrition is going, there is still time to gain positions as the pace truck lights are off. We're about to go back to green flag racing here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Going to be lap 91 when Abner Acosta gets the race back underway. It's his field, and he gets off to a flying start here on this restart. Luke Christian has James O'Brien on the inside, but I think he's going to be able to clear him on the exit of 2, and does just that. Maverick Davis spinning and hitting the wall hard on that right side. Green flag stays out. He's just stopped in the middle of the track, and it's... what is happening here? We'll get a replay. Still green. I'm surprised that we were still green.
That's a bigger angle than what brought out the caution previously. I'm absolutely sure of it. It's outside of Bray again, I think, and it's a role reversal almost. I don't really think that's anybody's fault, to be honest, but there you go. He's in the wall. We got away without a caution, and I'm surprised.
Well, I wonder if Davis, who's down pit road, will... You know, I said he probably wasn't far from hanging it up. It's just not been his night whatsoever. And another potentially solid performance kind of thrown away for Maverick Davis. Another top high starting position that just goes nowhere for him in the race. Came into the night third in the championship. He can still have this race dropped, but looking at the standings, he already missed one race, so this will not be a drop for him. Unfortunately, week 9 next week, you cannot drop the final race of a season. Trent Dinkle is currently, his lowest total at all at any point this season was 38 points in round 4. Yeah. That's pretty incredible.
It is, and that means as well, by the way, that Abner Acosta can't gain any more than 13 points today. Because even if Trent Dinkle goes below that... Or DNFs and finishes last here, then he will get at an absolute minimum. He will score 38 points today. At an absolute maximum, Abner Acosta can score 51. That's a difference of 13. So the smallest the gap can be going into the final race is 41. It's looking so good for Trent Dinkle to take the title here in Season 2. I think everybody else in some capacity is going to be focusing maybe on the, especially if they know that they're going to be here all year, the overall driver standing, which, as he mentioned earlier on, factors into the playoffs that we're going to see in Season 4.
It's a good point there. It's the playoffs at the end of the year, bonus points for finishing in specific positions. As we ride on board with Lou Christian, there's potential for Lou in this race. He has been fast, and boy, wouldn't he like to get a win here. 2 PRL Cup Series wins. That marks his entire PRL Series history. There's multiple series that happen all across the spectrum of a weekly racing competition. And catch all those leagues around the same time at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, typically that time on RaceSpotTV. Tomorrow is some prototype competition. Tuesday is GT. Wednesday is PRL Grand National in trucks. Thursday is PRL racing with Super Formula machines. That's a new one this year as we see this battle for first continue to heat up. Only 2 for Christian. Could it be 3?
I mean, if Luke Christian can finish here in the top 2, by the way, it would be his best performance of the season so far. So he's got a lot on the line at the moment, even finishing in second. Here he goes down to the
wiggle.
Oh wow, big slides at 1 and 2.
Man, that was close to calamity right there for both he and Abner Acosta. If Christian didn't catch that any sooner, he was putting his right front fender into the left rear of the number 5 Camaro ZL1, and both would have been worse off for it.
Wow. It's about going back to that downhill turn 1, isn't it, where the car sort of runs away from you almost. You really get a lot of oversteer there, or looseness, if you want to put it that way, into turn 1 if you're not careful. This is another look at what happened off of the start with Maverick Davis. Still think he might return in the race, by the way. He's been in the pit lane for 3 minutes as a result of this, ending up in the wall off of 2.
You know, Trent Dinkle, if he can somehow get back to the lead of this race, and I want to say steal a win from Abner, because Abner's been really solid tonight, and Trent just hasn't been able to save as much as Abner in terms of the tires, or even Luke Christian in that regard. I mean, Trent Dinkle is 2 wins away from tying Richard Regan Jr. For the most wins all time. Actually, let me rephrase that. He's 1 win behind Richard Regan Jr. for the most wins all time in PRL Cup competition. He could potentially take that spot away with wins in the last 2 races as Chad Gibby decides to show where he can go for a little bit of drift competition.
That was a moment he could have done without, let's put it that way, as we saw the big slide in towards 1 and 2. As I talked about earlier on, it's so common to see that as the car runs away from you down there into those first couple of corners. Lap 108 then, as we are just less than 5 minutes away from the halfway point, means we can probably get another 15 laps in here, which means we're about bang on for halfway in the laps. We're in a neck-and-neck race between laps and time, but I think with one, even maybe one caution would tip us over the edge to making this a time-certain 90 minutes.
Yeah, these this time versus lap counter, I still think we're leaning fairly heavily into lap counter as we're close to the halfway point. At the end of lap 118, we're halfway through the race to 235 lap affair. Currently can't show you the laps, but it is right now lap 111 where these drivers are on. It's a 90-minute race, whatever comes first.
Yeah, I personally, I'm going to go with, if you're going to go for laps, I'm going to go for time, by the way. I think this race will be down to time today, although we do need at least one more caution for that to happen.
I mean, hey, you know, sometimes you watch as Trent Dinkle waste no time in trying to get by Chris Hudson, but looked like he got a little bit loose trying to make a move on the inside there. Not much grip at all throughout these grooves, and Trent's trying to go into almost uncharted territory that far down on the inside. He said last weekend he was not too excited for this one as he gets the move done on Hudson. He didn't feel as solid for this one, and I feel like that might still be the case here. He doesn't look as Trent Dinkle-like as we've seen him.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, but I also feel like it somewhat doesn't matter to him because while he might not be feeling that great in the car or whatever, he's still driving well, and that's the most important thing at the end of the day. How's your driving? He is still running well. He's made up 5 places so far in this restart as Park Hilliard is under pressure from is it Maverick Davis trying to work his way back through again. 27 laps down, but still going.
That's impressive. You know, you never know when things could go your way.
27 cautions.
Okay, well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if drivers, you know, wreck out of the race in a decent enough time, maybe he can pick up a position. Well, here's why you're wrong. because I can see the future.
Well, let's see. But I'm back in time.
All right. If I'm wrong, we'll have race control Nick Hunter think of what I have to do if I'm wrong there. I don't think I want to know.
I'm not putting myself up for forfeit, by the way. I'm not doing anything if I'm wrong.
I just give me the most absurd thing because I know that's not gonna. I just am confident. Oh man, North Wilkesboro, it gives you some good action, and Maverick Davis on some fresh tires with a damaged race car, trying to make some moves to get maybe a lap back around the outside of Trent Dinkle. Now maybe around the outside of Pat Harvey on the exit at 2. He can't get there soon enough. Dinkle running top 5. It is ever since that caution, that third caution of the race, it's been all Lou Christian and Abner Costa up front. Trent Dinkle still trying to climb his way back up. Who knows? Maybe he could get a podium still in this race or compete for a win if there's another caution.
Yeah, he's not out of this by any means. I just don't think he's got the speed of Abner Acosta and Luke Christian on a long run. I think what Trink Dinkel needs is a 10-lap dash to the line, maybe a bit more than that, but he doesn't need a long 80-lap green flag run to the end, in my opinion. I think he needs a shorter run because his tyres seem to go away a bit quicker than Abner Acosta's do. Luke Christian doesn't seem to slow down at all throughout the stint. He's got that car absolutely on fire today. And he's really putting the pressure on Abner Acosta, although that gap is noticeably bigger than it was last time we checked in with these two.
Quite agreed upon there. I feel like a 10-lap dash would work into Trent's favor, but an elongated run to the line might not, as Dinkel is really putting the pressure now on Pat Harvey. Reynolds second separates Harvey from James O'Brien, Dinkel's private label Team Hype teammate. We're now on lap 127 of this race. Look at that. You can hear that whine from the motor. It's not turbo, but it has like a sound that almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's certainly a different engine sound to what we had 20 years ago or so.
God, give it 3 years ago when you had the old Gen 6 stock cars too.
True. Yeah. I mean, what's interested me most about actually this package though at this circuit, because it does kind of feel like we're putting these cars that are almost too modern for this circuit in some ways. The interesting thing to me is that they don't change gear around here, and that's quite rare these days. I don't know how many other circuits on the NASCAR schedule, maybe you know this bit more than me, how many these days where there's no gear changing at all, because even on the traditional, obviously I'm taking super speedways out of this way, that's obvious. On circuits where you actually have to lift off and brake, there's not very many anymore where you stick it in a gear and just leave it there.
You know, that brings up an interesting debate as side-by-side Dinkel finds a bit of an edge on Harvey. Oh, he came really close to sending it down the inside, but Harvey shut the door right there. It's an interesting debate among race fans, and I wouldn't say it's much of a debate, more of a problem with this next-gen Cup Series car. It's too easy to drive on short tracks, and you can shift on short tracks, and it is surprising that they're not shifting here at North Wilkesboro in that regard.
It seems to me that they don't get enough speed up, really, for fifth gear, hence why they're not using it.
Before getting the next gen, every other stock car that NASCAR has used in the past however many decades have been four gear machines. Another 5 gear sequential shifters, and it's definitely changed the nature of the game. As you see Hudson trying to get a little bit racy here on Trent Dinkel. You know, there's a few, I'd say, main issues that drivers and fans point alike at this car when it comes to improving short track racing, or where the problems with this car are surrounding short track racing. And I think most of it stems from the 5 gears. These drivers can shift usually around short tracks. The wider tires and the lack of horsepower. I think where more drivers want to see, and what fans want to see, is more slipping and sliding and more skill. Well, right there's a slipping and sliding, but more of that throughout the course of this race, where it's a beast to handle as Hilliard and Perry go side by side in the top 10 right here. And that's a bigger issue. That's an issue that, you know, I think in the real world NASCAR is trying to combat with the experimentation with primary and alternate tires in the All-Star race going on as we speak at North Wilkesboro.
I know what you mean, but the only thing I would say in counter to that is I really don't want to see the era returning in sort of the late part of the last decade, where even at Daytona they were sliding all over the place and there was crashes all of the damn time on super speedways, and it was just not entertaining, to be honest. I much prefer this package, or these cars even, on super speedways. The Daytona 500 this year was one of the best I can remember for quite some time, in my opinion, despite the lack of a last lap.
You know, it is interesting that you say that, because at the end of the Gen 6 era, there were a lot of big runs on super speedways and a lot of dumb blocks, but the parachute that you felt going out of line was massive. So once you got a run, you had to take the place, and there were a lot of dumb blocks that led to a lot of big wrecks. And I think the bigger issue in today's super speedway package is just the fuel saving measures that teams and drivers can take. It just takes the entertainment out. It makes a super speedway race so boring sometimes, which is interesting to me that you were a fan of this past 500 because stage 2 was all fuel saving.
I don't mind a bit of tactical. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it is mine. So,
I would say on a super speedway, I don't want that.
Right.
I don't want that on a super speedway. That's fine to me on an intermediate or anything else, but on a track where you're supposed to be flat out the entire time, I don't like that. When you can go single file, or when you can go one car faster than a pack of 39 cars, 40 cars, that's a problem to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm not entirely sure there's an easy solve for that, because after all, they are all running together all the time, and fuel saving's always gone on in some capacity, so it's not an easy solve there for that. But I don't know. I enjoy the tactical side of that kind of thing. And it's quite nice to have fuel as an actual discussion, because in the advent of stage racing, fuel mileage races have become a thing of the past, really.
Yeah, and I almost feel like I'd rather see either, and this is going to be sacrilegious to say because I don't think I want this, but is the answer to people who don't want fuel saving to be a part of it, because it's so easy to, you just got to make this mark and you're fine. Go for the rest of the stage. Everyone does that. It takes the strategy out of a full 200 lap, 188 lap super speedway race when there are stages, at least cautions at the end of stages. I've always liked stages with no cautions because that does change the strategy up a little bit. However, we all know what the reason stages are for. It's mostly for commercial breaks and all that jazz that puts money back into NASCAR, but nonetheless, intermediates have been so improved with this new car, and that's been a welcome addition. Road courses to me have been weakened in terms of entertainment. Super speedways are kind of the same, except for the fuel saving stuff that they'll figure out. And short tracks, unfortunately, have been impacted the most, and that's what's unfortunate, because short tracks have always been the most raw form of stock car racing, and this car is not really tuned to be a short track kind of stock car. As Mark Kalin tapped the wall with his right rear right there, one lap down.
I saw him looking to his left there. I wonder if he's just checking to see if he's on stream. Which has happened before. I think that happened earlier in the Nürburgring 24 when we were broadcasting on RaceSpotTV. Someone knew they were on the stream and just started weaving around on the straight. So it does happen from time to time.
What stints did you have there?
Sorry?
What stints did you have there during the 24-hour broadcast?
I had the first 2 hours. I had hours 6 to 8, and then from 6 hours to go to 2 hours to go. So I had a decent mix. I had a very nice sleep in the middle, which Arjun was not going to be pleased to hear, because he did not. But I did. I had the best sleep of anyone, I think.
That's fantastic. I know, obviously, if you're watching, you know RaceSpotTV, and RaceSpotTV does broadcast some of the bigger special events during the iRacing yearly calendar. 24 hours of Nürburgring was this past weekend, so that's a well-done effort to everyone involved, including yourself, Ewan.
Thanks very much. It includes the Coke 600 next week, by the way, which is coming up.
It is coming up indeed, and that will be quite entertaining on the Coke 600 broadcast. I think I did that last year. That was a good amount of fun, and I don't know if there's anyone scheduled to be on that broadcast this year. I'll have to talk to Arjuna about it. But
I've got to work that out still. I did it a couple of years ago, I remember. It's very long range though. Is the and it feels different as well, doesn't it? To these sort of not only this league in a sense, but also the other officials throughout the year. It just feels very different.
100% it does. And remember, there are no stages in the Coke 600 iRacing special event. So that changes the game a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly does. I personally, as we've discussed, really enjoy that part, the sort of long endurance almost aspect to the race is what I really enjoy about it. It's a long time to be concentrating, quite some close quarters racing. So looking forward to that one coming up at next week.
Yeah, no kidding. Lots of close action there and a lot of close action here. Jim Perry and Chad Kibbe. You know, that's a full field of cars for the Coke 600 special event because it is the top split of the special event. You got the best drivers all throughout. That's what makes it very interesting and exciting because even the best drivers make a lot of mistakes. If you ever turn on the channel, as Trent Dinkel comes down pit road for what should be his final stop of the race. And remember what happened last time when Trent Dinkel went for a green flag pit stop? A caution came out the next lap.
Exactly. That was 80 laps on the stint, by the way, but it does include some of the, or 81. It does include some of those caution laps, though. But as you say, he will go a lap down now, and once again, he will not be in the lucky dog position as he is a lap down for the moment. So that's even more concerning for him in that sense, but neither is particularly good. He's got to pray that this cycle is going to work itself through before the next caution. By the way, we're coming up to lap 160 right now, 75 to go-ish in terms of the laps, which are looking more and more like are going to be the race ender with this long green flag run.
Say that again? I didn't hear you.
I'm not saying it again.
Well, nothing is written in stone yet.
No. It's time for me to head out and call some cautions, I think.
Well, 75 laps. It's around 3 laps per minute here by the leader. With that in mind, that's what, 24, 25 minutes?
Yeah, 25, yeah, for 75 minutes. Will be, sorry, for 75 laps, 25 minutes. So, yeah, we're not comfortable yet. It's still close, but we're edging towards laps now with this long green flag run. Another pit stop, James O'Brien this time.
James O'Brien, the second driver on the lead lap to come into the pits, and that's 2 of the 3 private label Team Hype drivers gets stopped on point, and Abner Acosta now completes the trifecta of private label Team Hype drivers coming down pit road, and that's the lead of the race handed to Luke Christian, who's going to lead his first laps of this race here as James O'Brien goes out past Abner Acosta. Luke Christian all studious in that headshot right there. The Pioneer Racing driver alongside Pat Harvey and Chris Hudson. 1, 2, 3 right now. Even if it's on pit strategy, it still is the top 3 of this race.
I think it's worth staying out for quite some time for Luke Christian, to be honest with you. I think it might be worth the risk, although it looks like he's staying... Oh no, he's just taking a low line. So might well take some time until he comes into the pit lane. And I wonder as well whether he can theoretically make it on fuel, whether he might just risk it and just throw a Hail Mary shot, if you like. He's not got bad speed anyway, to be honest, so maybe that wouldn't be a good idea, but he is leading by quite some distance ahead of those who have stopped already.
Well, that provides an interesting idea, because I want to say you could maybe go 160 laps easily on fuel. I want to say, how about that? We might have a caution here. Car went into the inside wall, stays green. It was Mark Kalin.
Wow. That was a lucky escape for those who are looking for this race to go green. Who's he on the back of there? He just gets the power down and doesn't... He sort of thinks the modulation of the throttle is sort of over as he gets off of turn 2 there. And he just needed at that split second further off the full throttle. And, well, he has gone into the wall pretty hard. Got a meatball flag as a result, and he'll be taking repairs now on pit lane.
That's unfortunate for Kalin. Only 12 drivers remain on track in this race. Waldo Walden retired, so Maverick Davis was able to take that spot away and currently runs in 12th position. Mark Kalin, we'll see if he decides to pack it up here. We'll see how much required repairs he has and optional repairs. Looks like he'll still stay in the race. Davis 26 laps down, got 1 lap back since coming back out on track. So we're hearing that Kalin did say before going into the pits and having that adventure that he was good on fuel.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, where he is good on fuel, he was on the same strategy that the top 6 in this race are on when it comes to sit length, around 90 laps on fuel. And in the race remaining, if I'm doing my math correctly, we're at 65 laps left in the race.
Yeah.
That's a 155 lap run. If this is we're going to do math right here. It's a 5/8 track, you know? So 0.625. Let's do some math. You ready for this?
I think to just sort of bypass the hard work and just say something a bit more simple, but I still think rings true. Abner Acosta's just unlapped himself. He's now 15 seconds off the lead, but he's gaining by a second a lap anyway. So I think regardless of whether Luke Christian can make it or not, doesn't really matter.
Oh, Chad Kibbe!
Acosta's gaining quickly.
Chad Kibbe almost spun coming down pit road, slowing it down. Gonna get a replay here of this run into the pits. Sorry to cut you off right there, Ewan.
What was noticeable about that, it was just slightly further off the bottom than what I've seen from others going onto pit lane. He sort of needed to turn left a little bit more sharply at the end of that sequence and ended up spinning around, but not all the way, and we stay green again.
So my thought process when it comes to Luke Christian deciding to stay out here for the amount of time he's been staying out and all the other drivers on that kind of strategy is there comes a crossover point when you've made your bed and you've got to stick with whatever you've decided to go with strategy-wise. And Christian and Harvey, to me, Park Hilliard, they're dangerously close to that being the case with their bed being made and them having to stick with whatever they've kind of got going on. You know?
I agree. I totally get what you're saying. And I think that there's a little bit of that going on at the front right now because, as I said earlier, on a normal lap, Abner Acosta's gaining a second lap. He's only 10 seconds behind right now. Be there in 3 minutes or so, I think. And so that's way too soon as far as holding on for the race win is concerned. And Pat Harvey has given up now. He's gone into the pit lane. There is something to be said, though, for maybe waiting it out long enough so that the tyres of Abner Acosta start to go away. And if Luke Christian comes into the pit lane, then he can start to gain some time back of his own. Is that maybe something he's factoring in here into the final, what is at 55 laps we've got at the moment?
Potentially, and if it does go green the rest of the way, I guess it's going to be a question of who called the strategy right, but Luke Christian has decided to come down pit road, so he sacrificed a lot of time coming into the pits right now, but he's going to use all the time that he's got remaining to really push hard in this race. It's going to be around a 55-lap dash to the end, and he can use all of his tires for it.
He can, and
did he take right sides?
He did just take right sides.
Okay, well that's kind of just making your bed, but only putting the thin sheet on top.
Well, to go with the bed analogy, it's like getting out of bed, but sort of he's still sort of sitting in it. He's not lying in it anymore. He's just sitting up.
Interesting.
So he's sort of not decided whether he's still in the bed or not. He's just sort of half in, half out. And that for me is sort of almost worse than doing one or the other in my mind. I'm
a little bit suspect about that decision right there because Christian's not going to have the speed that he would have had he gone for all four. We'll have to see his last lap time where that kind of comes into play. His last lap was an 18.5. And we're also hearing that Chris Hudson took rights as well. And remember, Chris Hudson, his teammate, went in earlier, so Hudson must have been reporting in what the left side tire wear was as well.
And by the way, I reckon Pat Harvey did the same based on pit stop time.
And that's
although
what
I didn't see it. I'm guessing, but
Yeah.
I'm seeing the pit stop time at just 8 seconds. That's not enough for thought.
Well, we also have to remember that there isn't too much degradation in this race because it's not terribly scorching. The track temperature, it was 91 degrees earlier in this race. I reckon that it hasn't changed that much. It hasn't been too sunny on track, even though you see some shadows, and the sun is certainly peaking every so often here. The question is 6 seconds quicker in your pit box, is that really going to change the game around that much? You know, if you also lose time on track with only right sides? I'm not sure.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Luke Christian's gaining about half a second of that on Abner Acosta at the moment, so I think that's something that you can only weigh up really at the end of the race, when you sort of know all the facts, if you like, and you can see the race having unfolded in front of you, quite what you should and shouldn't have done. I don't especially like the call of just taking rights here, to be honest with you. I think it's either 4 or nothing, and they've sort of gone half and half when they really need to commit to one or the other, as we were saying.
I agree. I think there's a bit of inefficiency right there with that strategy call. But I will say this: it is different, and Luke Christian's going to have to quickly dispatch of Tim Perry and Park Hilliard just in front. Easier said than done, and I think he did a pretty admirable job right there.
Yep, he did a good job. There's a bit of traffic as well, lap traffic just up in front here, so that's to be noted. Trent Dinkle has been caught by James O'Brien for second place. These guys are pretty much on the same strategy here, so this is pretty impressive from O'Brien, although he's on slightly newer tyres. Dinkle, I think, by coming in first, has seen a benefit in terms of positions gained on the likes of O'Brien, who has lost a position even despite taking on the same strategy as the championship leader.
Yeah, really solid job right here by Dinkle, by O'Brien. Dinkle's struggling in this race. It's not Trent Dinkle that we're used to seeing, and he did say that, remember, last weekend. So it's still potentially a podium effort for him as we watch Chris Hudson go underneath Tim Perry, who's starting to struggle big time here on his 110-lap-old tires, which, by the way, Park Hilliard is one of those drivers that made his bed on the strategy he's on, which I don't exactly know is O'Brien. It's a little bit aggressive in getting by his teammate right there.
Yep, good move though, and it needed to be done because James O'Brien is a bit quicker than Trent Dinkle at the moment, who's really going to see those tyres fall away. That's what Luke Christian's got to remember when he's not pulling in that margin quite as quickly as he probably wants to. He's got to remember that those tyres for Trent Dinkle are going to fall away. Though having said that, Christian did gain a second on that previous run through, mainly because Dinkle was in that battle.
42 laps left, and Christian has still been gaining just under half a second per lap on Abner Acosta. That's enough time to catch up, but we don't know what the degradation will be on Luke Christian's tires, and if he's going to have a problem getting by Dinkle and O'Brien when he does catch up to them on the strategy he's on.
There's still a lot of unanswered questions here in the remaining, 40 laps from the end now indeed. Lap 195 as far as my time is going to show me.
We're on 196, so 40 laps from this point.
Yeah, correct. So, not long at all now, less than a quarter of an hour until the end of the race. If we stay green, it's looking good for the laps to be the race ender here today as we complete the most laps of any of the circuits we have visited in the 9 rounds of this season. That includes, by the way, Martinsville, which we went 10 laps less around.
Yeah, which is quite curiosity-inducing, I will say.
Yeah. Isn't this longer?
It is.
Yeah. I guess it's faster, though.
Which is also probably. That's true.
Makes sense.
Yeah. All right. The math checks out.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm surprised it's not like 200 laps just to fall into line with the All-Star race, because that would make sense, but maybe not. We're roughly 150 miles here around here.
By the way, Chad Kibbe wrecked on the backstretch. He's towed himself back to pit road. We'll see how much damage he has, but that might be race over for Kibbe, and the potential for Davis to pick up one more position before this race is over if he stays in the pits the whole time. Battle for third, Luke Christian not really a battle. Got by Trent Dinkle easily, and Dinkle's looking at one race where he doesn't get interviewed by us.
Yeah, I think that is going to be the case here. He's only going to go backward from here. Chris Hudson took those 2 tyres on, of course, and his tyres are 16 laps younger. Pat Harvey's in the same boat, although probably too far away given the amount of time we've got remaining. I'm not counting out Chris Hudson from getting up to 4th place before the end of this one, because I think Dinkle's going to see that pace fall away further as we close in on lap 2, 3, 5.
This race has, I would say 2 cautions to give at this point.
Yeah.
Definitely 1, of course, maybe 2,
Yeah,
which
so.
could change strategy up and change who's got tires. I think everyone's got at least 1 set of fresh tires to go.
What would happen, though, is that we've only got 6 on the lead lap, so even with the caution at this stage, we are sort of seeing a limited, very limited selection of drivers who can still win from here.
It's very true. And chaos would ensue. Would Hilliard and Perry take the wave around in hopes of getting a caution? Because everyone would come into the pits, says Tim Perry. Speaking about him.
Wow.
He almost caused the caution.
Yeah, you don't want to be the caution if you're trying to get yourself waved around, that's for sure. So, and of course they're fighting for the free pass. Which
Easy does it for Luke Christian, by the way.
Wow, yeah, very easy. So easy, I thought he was just lapping someone.
Luke Christian now 5.5 seconds back of Abner Acosta in the lead with tires that are 17 laps fresher than Abner. He's been catching Abner by around 0.4 a lap over the last 40-plus circuits. And he's got around 30 laps to make a move happen. Now, that is enough time based on what we've seen from Christian's pace to catch up to Acosta, which would, to me, say that maybe the right sides were the right move, but we'll have to see just how things shake up here. He's definitely put himself in a position where it's almost a net gain, net loss is 0 at the moment.
Yeah, he's certainly put himself in a situation where he sort of would have finished second anyway, so he can't really be disappointed about what his strategy has entailed so far today. But I'm unsure as to whether if he'd have taken 4, would he have made up those seconds that he would have lost with the extra time in pit lane anyway? I personally think he would have done. Would it have made a difference? I'm struggling to really see much of a difference actually at the moment, because it is a fairly significant amount of time you would have to then catch up even further, but then you'd have the better tyres to do so. So it's a difficult call for sure, but I don't think Christian will have any regrets after this race, that's for sure. And with 25 laps to go, he's still right in this.
Yeah, he's gained another second right there. I think Christian, I don't know what he's thinking right now. I feel like he feels like he can catch up on a green flag run. As you see him try to get around this traffic, that's going to slow him down just a bit. Just a bit, and every bit of traffic is dangerous, honestly, as he just throws it into the corner. He almost was about to lean on Park Hilliard there. If every lap that goes where he doesn't gain the amount of time he needs, he's going to hope for a caution.
Exactly. That's lost him time, by the way. He gained 2 tenths on the previous time round. I can't imagine he'll gain any. He might even lose time this time. 19.2 from Acosta. Luke Christian did a 19.2 as well, so he gained only 17 thousandths of a second. That's not going to get him anywhere quickly.
By the way, this race, once it goes, there's no green-white check. There's no overtime, no PRL overtime here. If we got a caution within the last, let's say, 4-ish laps of this race, say on lap 231, that would all but likely end the race at the conclusion of lap 235 under yellow conditions or a drag race to the line. But nonetheless, there's still some time left for Christian to catch up. It's just not as quick as he needs right now.
Yeah, he needs to do this a little bit quicker. There's about 20 laps to go now for Luke Christian. 4 seconds. I can't really do that maths, to be honest with you. What's 4 divided by 20? About 2 tenths, is it?
That is certainly 2 tenths. Well done.
Yeah, so 2 tenths a lap is what he needs if he wants to catch on the last lap.
But catching is not the same as passing.
Exactly. and he can't even gain by 2 tenths a lap at the moment, based on that last time round.
20-ish laps to go, coming to 20 now. Abner is on 216 of 235 laps. 6 drivers on the lead lap. That looks like the way we're going to end this race if nothing crazy happens. And the top 6 all composed of the top 2 teams in the championship standings and team standings.
Yeah, 2 dominant teams, you'd have to say, at the very front of the field. Private label team Hype, who are first indeed in the team standings. And then Pat Harvey's team, Lou Christian's team, and all of the others as well in that set. Was there someone behind Mark Kelly in there? Anyway, yeah, Pioneer Racing, who are running second in line.
4 laps down and in the top 10. How about that for Mark?
Yeah, that's short track racing, if you can put it like that.
You got to do it as the Denny Hamlin way. That's short track racing. I hope you know the
Not
clip.
going to be doing any accents today. Not from me.
Well, more impressions. I have an accent to you and you have an accent to me.
Yeah.
If you.
Yes, there you go.
That's just short track racing.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. 3.1-ish seconds is the smallest it's gotten to so far for Christian, but it's not quite happening at 2 tenths a lap. We're down to 15 laps to go now.
Yeah, it may have been, that 3.5 second difference is actually a net loss over where he was running compared to Abner Acosta under green flag conditions. So it might end up very well being kind of what we said, like getting out of bed, but not, but still sitting on the bed in terms of taking right sides on a strategy that he didn't fully commit to. I don't know if 4 tires would have really made such a difference, though. No. So again, it's both. I don't know. I think he would have been caught by Abner for sure if he stayed out.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
So a mitigation of loss, I guess.
I think the thing for me is not necessarily the 2-tire call that's changed this race. For me, it's the waiting after Acosta came in. In my opinion, when you're in that situation, when you're Lou Christian, you have to get the track position, because he spent a lot of that first part of the... I sort of split this race into 2, when we had a lot of cautions in the first half, not so many in the second half. If you look at the second half of this race, he spent a lot of time, Lou Christian, right behind Abner Acosta, struggling to get through on him. Either struggling or it just didn't want to go through. But when you're in that situation, for me, you've got to get an undercut and you've got to get ahead of him, get that track position, and then make him make the move. Give him the initiative. And especially when Trent Dinkle came in quite early on, you must have thought at that stage, right, I've got to be in now. I've got to find some clean air and I've got to jump Abner Acosta in any way that I can. And unfortunately, he not only didn't do that, he instead waited such a long time that he's given himself a gap that's just been too big to come and close again.
Yeah, just a little bit too much coming too late for Lou Christian, as we're coming down to what will be 8 laps to go as Abner Acosta crosses the line to start lap 228 of 235 in this race. I'm pretty sure laps are going to be what ends the race here, you.
Even I'm sure now.
This race did have its fair share of intrigue for having so few drivers in it, as Chris Hudson almost loses it just in front of his teammate Pat Harvey. The lead lap drivers are just from 2 teams, and they're all in the top 6. 12 drivers on track at the moment. 15 entered into this race, riding on board with Pat Harvey, who is just half a second back off his teammate, as some traffic does come into the sphere of influence for these 2 drivers.
Speaking of 12 still on the circuit, by the way, Maverick Davis is not going to be very pleased that Chad Gibby got out again with just 7 laps to spare, as Pat Harvey, thankfully, saves that just in time. 5 to go, by the way.
That's an interesting thing you just brought up, by the way, as we watch the replay, an external broadcast cameras. We're riding on board with Pat Harvey right there. It was so agonizingly close for another position for Maverick Davis, but because Chad Gibby has come out, he's not going to end up on the same lap as Gibby and potentially pass him for 11th.
Yeah, he'd be a little bit disappointed about that. And so, although Q's back in now, I don't think there's enough laps for Davis to get through, because as Abner Acosta crossed the line, there's now 3 to go for Lou Christian to try and close in. And as we approach the line again, there's 2 to go. The laps get rattled off very, very quickly around here.
Only 2 laps to go here in this race at North Wilkesboro. It was an intriguing one. Abner Acosta got the pole by 2 thousandths over his teammate Trent Dinkle, who has not had the race you would expect from Trent Dinkle. There's not going to be a white flag in Barney's hand, but just know it's being waved as we start lap 235 of this one. This 5/8 mile track. Lou Christian has made a solid run, could have had the win, maybe didn't feel like he could race mano a mano against Abner, so went off strategy. Abner Acosta crosses the line and will win here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Checkered flag has come out in the form of a caution. Acosta, Christian, O'Brien, your podium finish, with Trent Dinkle finishing 4th, Chris Hudson, Pat Harvey, your top 6, and your drivers on the lead lap of this race.
Yeah, and the maths now will happen for Abner Acosta as to whether he's quite kept this championship alive by the skin of his teeth ahead of the final round of the championship in 1 week's time at Charlotte.
Yeah, I think at this point, with Dinkle finishing in 4th, having a lap led, he doesn't...
Sorry, you're right.
He doesn't have his... he doesn't have it... I don't think he has it locked in yet, but as long as he shows up, he wins the title. I'm pretty sure is as official as it can possibly come for Trent Dinkle.
Yeah, I agree. And he would have been feeling that from a couple of weeks out now. He'll be maybe disappointed with how he's driven today, because although he might have just accepted it because of how much he enjoys or doesn't this circuit indeed. But, it doesn't really matter really at this point. He should be the champion.
Well, this certainly means that we will see a champion crowned in the last race of the season. Lou Christian, well, that's not the results of this race. Abner Acosta won this race. That's all the weird things when you have a race that ends on a caution, but it's all good. Abner Acosta wins with Christian, O'Brien, Dinkle, and Hudson your top 5. Pat Harvey finishes on the lead lap in 6. Mark Hilliard, Tim Perry, Craig Bray, and Mark Kalin, your top 10, with Chad Kibbe, Maverick Davis, Warhol Walden, Eric Hogg, and Marshall Harris, your 15 drivers in the field. We'll wait just a few moments to let all the drivers get into our booth. But definitely a race with some unique intricacies at North Wilkesboro, and did it come without its fair share of cautions in it? More than I expected, I think.
You think? I was expecting a few more, actually, especially in the second half of the race, where we really had that long green flag run to the end. I said earlier on that wasn't going to suit Trent Dinkle, and in the end that rung true. But yeah, it was caution filled at the start a little bit, indeed right at the very start, when only 2 cars across the line, in fact, to take the green flag for the first time. That was a bit bizarre, but thankfully we got some proper racing after that.
Second place finisher from this race is Lou Christian, and he joins us in the booth. Lou, it was close. You have the speed. Do you feel like it was maybe the strategy could have been a little bit different there?
Yeah, I had no idea that those guys pitting that early would catch me. I thought when all 3 of Private Label pitted, I was like, oh yeah, we got this. Like, there's no way they can catch us. But wow, he came flying up. But fortunately, I went in and took two early enough to at least get my position back. And I was just trying to catch Abner there at the end, but I burned him off getting that close, about as far as I could go.
You know, that was kind of the question here that Ewan and I had in the booth. It almost felt like you wanted to commit to one strategy, but you kind of went both ways, where you didn't quite get out of bed or make the bed, but you got out of bed and still sat on the bed there with the strategy. But hey, show that you can absolutely compete with Abner Acosta at this track. Now, if it did come down to it, do you feel like same strategy, final 30 laps, going to green here, same tires, you feel like you could have beat him?
Yeah, I mean, probably saw I threw it in there one time on him to see what he would do if he would change his line to go back low and I could have my high line back, because I saw him run the high and take the air away from me in my line. So tried that. I would probably try that again and just try and square him up and kind of dive bomb into 3. The inside of the track on 4 and 2 are both bumpy, and the car just wanted to kind of get out from under you, so it's kind of hard to make passes on that. So on entry was probably your best bet to pass there, and that's kind of what I tried. It just didn't stick.
Well, Lou, I'll give you the moment and the floor to thank your partners and anyone else you'd like to send some appreciation for.
Yeah, everybody at SGE, PRL, thanks for hosting. RaceSpot, Bowen Boots, Advanced Sim Racing for sponsoring the league, and everybody else watching. Thank y'all.
Lou Christian, congratulations on second place. I'm sure you would have liked to be one spot higher up in the order, but that was Abner Acosta, and you're with him, Ewan.
Yeah, congratulations, Abner, on the win here tonight. This race very much split into 2 parts for me. The second part, of course, where there was a very long green flag run, and in the very, very end, you were being chased by Lou Christian for that win. Was there ever a point you were nervous about losing that first position, or were you confident in your abilities to hang on?
Yeah, no, I was definitely nervous once I saw he was 4 seconds back and he had way fresher tires. Definitely panicked a little bit, but I think he was only like a 10th or a 10th and a half faster, so once we started doing a little bit of math, I figured he wouldn't catch me unless I would have made a mistake. So, but yeah, no, it was definitely scary once I saw him. He was 4 seconds back.
Myself and Dylan had a lot of discussions about the cautions that we were going to see today, and indeed how many we were going to see. I've got to say I was expecting maybe a few more that we actually had in the end, and especially towards the end of the race. Did that factor in at any point to your thinking going forward into this race, and indeed maybe even the setup that you would employ going into this race, knowing or thinking about longer or shorter green flag runs? What were you expecting?
Yeah, I definitely was expecting shorter, a lot of yellows, just because of how this track is. So I think the plan coming in was just to qualify ahead and stay ahead, which we were able to do. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations on the win tonight, Abner. It's been great to chat to you again, and we'll hopefully see you one last time for Season 2 next week.
All right, well, I'll see you guys there.
Thanks very much. Abner Acosta there, the winner of tonight's race in round 8 of the PRL Cup Series, and James O'Brien can also join us now, having finished in 3rd. James, welcome in as well. Good to have you with us. Just a couple of seconds away from that top 2 right at the end, but a good 3rd place run for you in the end. How are you feeling after that one?
Sweaty, tired. It's a long race for as short as it probably felt to watch. Very physical, very bumpy. I didn't have anything for them. I was just happy to come home in 3rd. I honestly thought Trent would have got me, but I made some adjustments on pit road and it brought the car alive, and it was pretty quick at the end. But I'm just glad that was over. I didn't have very high hopes tonight, so pretty happy with 3rd.
Were you glad it was over in a case of you weren't enjoying the time round here particularly?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the track. I didn't really have a lot of time to prepare. Had some equipment issues right before the race and had to like readjust to driving with pedals that were like slightly out of calibration, so that's why my qualifying was bad. But as the race went on, it got better. But yeah, just not in the right mindset, I don't think, going in.
Oh, I brought this circuit back and nobody seems to like it.
Oh, I love the circuit. It's just
Oh, I see. Okay.
I wasn't prepared
Okay.
for the race, if that makes sense, on my end. But I hope they repave it for the sim, because it's such a cool track.
Fine, that makes more sense. I'm glad to hear it. Congratulations on a top 3 run tonight, James,
Thank
and thanks very much for chatting to us.
Yep, have a great one.
Thanks so much. James O'Brien, 3rd place tonight in round 8 of the Cup Series.
Well, that's pretty much done it here at North Wilkesboro. 235 laps, and of course, Abner Acosta comes away with the victory. One more race left in this second season. It's at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Same time, same day of the week. It's next Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. A little bit of a break before we get going again for more PRL Cup Series action in 2024. If you want to get involved, you can do just that. Precision Racing League is to open up every bit of signups that you can possibly get for any of the leagues there. I think it's right now for returning drivers, but it will soon be opened up to the public for all of its series. And if you want to catch any more PRL competition, RaceSpotTV has got it all week long. But Ewan, it's been a fun one, and we appreciate everybody watching here on RaceSpotTV. Abner Acosta winning it at North Wilkesboro. It's been a fun presentation on RaceSpot of PRL action. From myself, Dylan Coyle, and Ewan O'Leary, Nick Hunter, Race Control, and Ramiro, our producer in the booth. We wish you all a pleasant good evening, good night, and good racing.